menstrual cycle is the bear entering the dark, deep cave where he sleeps, where he dreams, where he receives something internal, something elusive, something imaginative. Inside this deep, dark cave, it is warm by the thick and dense coat of the bear, and the bear's heart is still. It is restorative, this calm, slow, elongated sleep. And outside this cave, it is cold. Everything is on pause. The trees are barren. It almost appears stark, barren. But yet the bear knows his beating heart, and may be slow and may be pondering, but it's preparing. So during the menstrual cycle, a woman gets to experience the shedding. As a woman knows that blood of release of heat is an egg shedding its skin for something new, something fresher to take root. So women represent this constant shedding, and it is a gift to have this heat of potential, this heat of protection, and this heat of reflection to shed away through the vagina, through the entryway to innocence. They call it the place where we are uninflicted childhood, the entryway to the vagina. The release of the skin of the egg is a potential to let go of anything that is tense within the childhood, because the vagina, especially the perineum, represents the experience, the development of the childhood. So if our experience and our development of the childhood was something that caused tension, that caused blockages, that enclosed areas within our body, within our energy field, the shedding of an egg is a shedding of any enclosed area that is keeping us from the full expression, the full blooming of ourselves. So think of it as a red rose. A red rose wants to bloom out of the perineum, but the red rose needs this shedding of old petals for new petals to bloom brightly. So we may have old petals that we're carrying with us that are wilted, that are already fading and no longer of use to the overall bloom of the flower, but we keep it. It's already decomposing. And the menstrual cycle is a way for us to clear away these old petals that are decomposing and to give them, return them where they belong. They belong in the soil of Mother Earth. So it's a very natural, very grounding experience. It's also healing for the birth canal, for a woman to experience this menstrual cycle, this shedding and shedding and shedding. It's also shedding of false personalities that we have taken on from our mother and father. It is a shedding of belief systems that we have gathered from caretakers in early school that does not support our unique creative spark. And it gives us this sense of hearth. We think of the hearth, we think of it as this communion. The hearth is usually, we could see it as a giant fireplace, like a kitchen. And it is the heart of the home. That's why it's called the hearth. It is the heart of the home. And at the heart of the home, there's this great communion. There's this great gathering where we are nourished, where we are nurtured, where we are listened to, and where we are listening. And this communion with ourselves helps us to unravel and to learn what it is that we need to feel more secure in our journey. So in this hearth, we can communicate, we can celebrate ourselves and each other, and we can listen deeply, closely, reflectively at ourselves and others to have a deeper understanding of what is our uninflicted innocence, what is our uninflicted intention, vision for our journey and for our expression. So the perineum and the birth canal is greatly emphasized during this menstrual cycle. It is the entryway. It is a release, a restorative release. Restorative being very much about soothing, being quiet, being meditative, listening, opening, intuition. And this birth canal represents the widening, the deepening of our grounded embodiment, so we can learn our manifestation patterns and our rhythm. That's what a menstrual cycle is. It is the rhythm, and it is the part of the rhythm that represents the vision. While we can say other periods in our rhythm, our cycle, our seasons, from winter to spring to summer, can represent the fruition, the levitation, seeds rising and sprouting, growing towards the light. So this is a time for us to really look at ourselves, to journal because when our perineum is very open, it's very loose, it's very limber, it's very tender. That represents that the veil between us and our childhood, our most inner grace, our innocence, our potential to redefine our early development, to subconsciously rewrite our early development through meditation, through journaling, through awareness, attentiveness to the feelings, the emotions that are triggered from the perineum being very tender and very soft. That gives us a chance to look at areas within ourselves that we're holding judgment, that we're holding a belief, that we're holding a pattern that is not bringing us closer and more fully with our vision for our time of action, our time of precision, our time of creativity, our time of productivity, our time of application. This is our great inward time to learn the mechanics, the underlying mechanics that craft our reality. So we think about our lives. We think about this journey we're on and how it's uniquely different compared to everyone else, all people of this world. And it is a reality we chose because we, in our level of evolution, wherever we're at, evolution is quite vertical and horizontal. It's quite dynamic. It's not a hierarchic scale. It's very well-rounded. But in our unique evolution brought us to this particular reality. And as women, a lot of times we have misunderstanding because we're not getting to the root. The root is the perineum. The root is the opening, the tender, the soft, the vulnerable opening of the vagina. That's what connects us to the underlying mechanics that really carve out our cyclical nature as a woman. We have a cyclical nature. We have a cyclical intellectual nature, emotional nature, sensual, creative, spiritual. And what carves out the cyclical nature is our roots and how rooted we are in our security and our sense of connection to our innocence, a sense of connection to our uninflicted meditation, our connection to an essence or an authenticity. That is what really can help us to look out in our reality. Okay, when we come out of that cave or when we're in that cave, we can really examine and feel into everything that we've experienced out there in the wilderness of life and everything we've come across and every decision we made. We can feel it. We can feel it. And we can also shed it. If it is a perception, if it's an attitude, if it's an emotion, if it's an attention, if it is bound, if it is tight, if it is knotted, we can place that into the shedding of the egg and allow it to rinse out of ourselves, like squeezing a towel. Allow it to rinse out of ourselves. So this is what makes women quite futuristic. Women have always been ahead of the trend. They've always been trailblazers. They've always been, you can say, 10 steps ahead of men. They have foresight. They have clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and men have no idea. Because men don't have this constant shedding of the old, of the old, of the old. Women have this. Women have this ability to always be in sync with what is happening here and now. While men, since they don't have this gift, a lot of times they can get caught in their heels, or they can get too far on their toes, where they're chasing aimlessly, restlessly, impulsively forward with no sense of review or reflection or inner compass or intuition that implies the heels. While women, we represent the back and forth. We experience our past in our dark, deep bear cave where we are experiencing menstrual cycle. We're very much like a stone person where we are just frozen in time. It creates this timelessness with us where we can experience our childhood, we can experience our young adolescence and all of the people and make peace, amends, resolution in, you could say, our bear cave or inner teepee where we spend our time just being in that timelessness. And then being on the balls of our feet represents coming out of the bear cave and feeling lighter. It's as though we are flying on the balls of our feet because we have such propulsion now that we have given up or gave the decomposed personalities and aspects of ourselves to Mother Earth. We feel lighter. So coming out of that cave is like a bear. We are thinner. It's like the bear collects all of this food, hibernates, comes out, and is thinner, is lighter, because the heat of the bear's sleep has shedded all of the food as well as any disease that the bear might have been carrying within himself. So the bear walks out of the cave lighter on the balls of the feet, not weighted in the heels, because they have resolved the heels and they're open to allowing the past to be a review that is a guide to the future and to as wisdom that can help the future reach new heights of harmony and of joy. So this is very much this process of the menstrual cycle for women, and what it has always been throughout time, and why men don't really understand this nature, because they are very much bound to their heels, or they're bound to their toes, but never this middle ground. Because this middle ground implies you need deep meditation, deep reflection, deep shedding, deep rewriting, deep awareness that a woman experiences on her period, that she can journal, she can be a poet. And then she comes out and she's a scholar, she is discovery, she has discovered so much, and she's applying it into a scholarly knowledge that she shares with the hearth and the communion with people. While men, they just have this drive, this impulse, this desire to want to be the prestige scholar, to want to dominate the hierarchic scale. But shedding and shedding and shedding of skins is the serpent. And serpent represents fertility. It represents youth, generations and generations and generations of shedding. So the women, when the shedding of the skin and the skin and the skin is like shedding of the egg and the egg and the egg and the egg. I don't know how many skins a snake sheds in a single life, but it's a lot. And for women, it's the same thing. And that's what gives us this youth. That's what gives us this restorative revitalization of ourself. And men, they don't understand this newfound woman that is coming out of the cave, because men are so much either one or the other, either in the heels or either in the toes, or either like a pendulum swinging back and forth quite almost neurotically. But the serpent, the fertility, the nature of generations, is women, we shed generations. It's up to us to clear away the disease and the malnourished intelligence and the dysfunction of the previous generations. It's inside our eggs, our perineum, the exit, the entryway, as well as the womb and the heat. It's up to us to really focus, like you could say, the eyes of the hawk or the vulture, narrow focusing on what it is about us that is deep judgment, that's deep enclosed or blocked or oppressed or neglected or denied. We can focus on it, we can get real with it, and we can restore it to a more organic, liberated state of being, rather than a uptight, tense sort of position. So, and the final statement about this is why when it comes to the moving out of the cave, we are lighter, we are fresher, we've shedded all of this excess that we just don't need. It's like petals that have no use. They're turning brown. You just let them fall off the rose. Just let them fall off. Let it go. You don't need 100 petals if those 100 are brown and wilted. Just let them go and trust that your rose will bloom again, and it'll be brighter and it'll be a more distinct red color. So coming out when we are this youthful woman with just new ideas, with creativity that is ready to take action because there's a vision, there's an intuitive, futuristic, trailblazing understanding that's been discovered within the teepee or the bear cave. And coming forward, it is our inner child that we get to know each time we travel into the period and we exit out of the period. We get to know our inner child and how much resistance, how much lack of joy we have. How much potential of joy do we neglect, or do we deny, or do we judge, or do we oppress? Because that inner child, are we fearful? Are we scared? Do we feel unsafe? Do we feel belittled? Do we feel trauma, tortured, molestation from our childhood? All of these things can be blockages, can be us in our heels, weighted in it. And the experience of the emotional experience, we have this chance to place it in the shedding of the egg and allow it to drop out of the perineum into the Mother Earth where it can decompose, but it must become our intention. If it's not a whole mind, body, spirit intention in alignment, in a joy, a committed command to move forward with a sense of I am, meaning I am reality, shifting, transurfing, redefining, reinventing. That's the I am. And when we place that as the woman represents the I am, we are incredible at bringing these generations of something that is not functional or healthy or nourishing. We have it within us to bring it into a new direction. We have it within us. We are the epigenetics of humanity. We are the genetic codes of humanity, not men. Men, they don't know how to reinvent a generation. They just know how to keep it going. Just to keep the same old going until it's so boring and it's so stark and it's so stagnant that it's forced to move out by the elements of the planet. And it's usually it's quite violent overthrowing of these stagnant, patriarchal continuations of what is outdated and needs to be gone. But women, we are very much in us can reinvent a generation from something that is very insecure, neurotic, imbalanced into something that is rooted truly, deeply, purely in the genetic code we carve out from our creative spark. That is our womb, our navel. It's this creative application that can unlock the genetic code, unlock potential for us to be more talented and less fearful, be stronger and more able to handle the darkness and the negativity rather than weak and easily seduced and tempt into temptation. It's us. And the menstrual cycle is our direct access